Hello everyone, welcome to one more of my videos. In today's episode we will talk about whether responding to the salutation or the greeting Asalamu Aleikum is indeed obligatory in Islam, and also how men today, on social media at least, they abuse this popular tradition, because in reality it's a popular tradition, that's what it is, of, every Muslim should return the salams in aim to technically hit on us women. If you belong to this category of those men that they have never done that, I'm thankful to you, and this is the moral thing to do. If you're a woman, please feel free to give us to leave a comment or under the video to say how many times it has happened to you, because it happens to me very often, last time being this morning, and that's why after so many months I'm like, you know what, I need to talk about that. So let's take the tradition to begin with. When did that become obligatory? Based on what? Because this popular idea is that when Muslims meet, they need to greet each other, and when one says Asalamu Aleikum, the other one must respond accordingly. Is it in the Quran? No, it isn't. Is it in the Hadith? Kind of. And what do I mean by that? So let me read for you the source. So what has happened is that there is a hadith indeed that is acceptable by everyone, because it's in every hadith collection you can imagine, where I'm reading now so it is in Al-Bukhari 1228 and 6236. It's in Muslim 39, Ahmad 2/169, Abu Dawood, An-Nasai, Ibn Hibban, etc. In all these collections, this hadith exists. And the hadith says, is narrated from Abdullah ibn Umar that a man asked the Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings be upon him, what is the best thing in Islam? He, the Prophet, said, feeding others and giving the greeting of salam to those whom you know and those whom you do not know. This is what the hadith say. Okay, the Prophet did not say it's obligatory. The Prophet did not say everyone has to do it. If it was obligatory, first of all, it would be in the Quran. Even if it wasn't in the Quran, the Prophet would have announced it by himself. Whereas here we see that someone went to the Prophet and asked about the best thing. Now, of course, here there are questions, because the first thought I had when I read this hadith is like, so the best thing in Islam is not to worship Allah? The best thing in Islam is not to pray? The best thing in Islam is not to adhere to Tawheed, the oneness of God? But then I thought that most probably the Prophet referred to what is the best among the members of the community. And makes sense. Now the first thing is to feed someone. And the second thing is to give salams to those that you know and you don't know. Somehow, and I will tell you how, the salams became obligatory, but everyone forgot to feed someone. Nobody tells you today that it's your obligation to feed someone. You feed someone if you want to skip your fasting. Other than that, but it's not obligatory. So how, when the Prophet put it second in social interaction, now we have it being, obligatory, you must do it? I will tell you how. So that comes from Imam Nawawi. Now, Imam Nawawi lived in the 13th century, medieval ulama. Okay, so according to Imam Nawawi, greeting with the words of Asalamu Aleikum is sunnah, and responding to it is wajib, obligatory. So the Prophet told us that it's one of the best things you can do, to say Asalam, not to respond, to give the salam to those you know and you don't know. Imam al-Nawawi came back after 5 centuries, after the death of the Prophet, says, you know what, yeah, saying Assalamu Alaikum is obligatory, but it's also obligatory to respond to it. The Prophet never mentioned anything about the response. And then there are other details about what Nawawi say. So technically, we have a mortal that lived 5 centuries after the death of the Prophet, that in his understanding, and he has the right on to his opinion, he decided that returning the salam is something obligatory. At this point, every single one of us needs to sit, contemplate, pray to God, and think, am I following the religion of Allah and the guidance of the Prophet, or the religion of Imam al-Nawawi? I will go away from that. So this is up for you to know the source of whatever, because, you know, many times in life in general, we take tacit knowledge. So someone said something, we heard it when we were young, not us, the converts, the born Muslims, and then we repeat it like parrots without knowing the sources. Think about that. So for me personally, the way I practice my religion, returning salam is not obligatory. The Qur'an doesn't mention it. God didn't say it. The Prophet didn't even say anything about obligation. Okay? He said that it's a good thing to give salams, not to return salams. And now you will say, but what are you talking about? Why would it be obligatory to give salams? I will tell you why. And here we go to the concept of contextualization. Everything we do coming from the era of the Prophet, we need to contextualize it in the era of the Prophet. And what do I mean by that? So in the first communities of Muslims, okay, we know that they were being tortured, they flee Mecca, they went to Yathrib, that later on was renamed Medina. And people would run away from tribes and from households. Women, we know that women were running away from their husbands, and they were going and they were offering their allegiance to the Prophet, and they were converting to Islam. And then we even have, I think it was part of the Quran that was, I don't want to say something I'm not 100% sure. Anyway, we do know that at some point, I think it is in the Quran, if I'm mistaken, please forgive me, where God says that do not return the women if they profess that they are Muslims, and the husbands comes to pick them up, don't give them, now they're Muslims, they belong to the Muslim community. So we had individuals in the early era, okay, fleeing from their villages, from their tribes, from their families, going and becoming Muslims. And we talk about an era where there was no police, there was no army, no identities, and people were just slaughtering each other like that. So I could be a Muslim, walk in the street, and suddenly see in front of me someone that comes from the tribe of an enemy, or someone that 10 years ago had slaughtered my mother, or someone that 10 years ago had, I don't know, stolen all my camels, because this was popular practice. At this moment, emotionally, I will be triggered and I will want to fight. So it was very important for Muslims in aim to identify themselves. And remember, in Medina, we didn't have only, I mean, not even in Mecca, we didn't have only Muslims. There were Muslims, there were Jews, there were Christians, there were polytheists. So it was important for Muslims, for purposes of identification and peace, to greet each other. Also, it's not that people were only met in the daylight, that you could see someone and perhaps acknowledge him or recognize him. We do know that there were no toilets, and we do know that people were going out in the fields in the night to relieve themselves. So in the darkness, and we didn't have lamps or anything, it was just the skylight. The moon, if you had a moon. So in these circumstances, it was very important for Muslims to say salam, and for the other person, if he was a Muslim, to return the salam, so that they will feel safe. They will know that he's not coming to slit my throat, he's not coming to steal from me, he's not coming to fight with me. Okay, so in this context, offering the salam, and this is why, because the salutation before Islam was not salam, it was something like good morning. The reason that became salam, which means peace be upon you, peace, means I bring peace. I don't want to harm you. I'm not here to fight you. I'm here and I'm bearing peace. Okay. So in this context, it was very useful for the societal coherence of Muslims. It was important to know that this person that 10 years ago was your enemy, or 5 years was your enemy, or a month ago was your enemy, and you left him or her in Mecca, and now you see them among you, that it didn't come here to kill you or to steal or anything. I hope you understand that. I mean, I cannot explain it in any better. So back then it was important, yes. But today, you can do it if you meet someone that you know. You know, I haven't met you for a while, I see you in the street, hey, salam, no? Another element that the born Muslims need to understand, because if you are a born Muslim, you grew up in a community, you watched your mother, you watched your father saying that greeting, and it has been imprinted in your brain. For people like me that we are adults and we converted in later stage, not only these sounds, because for many years, Asalamu Aleikum, for me, it was just a combination of sounds. It's like if I say to you, Irini Sesena, and po Irini Sesena, you feel nothing, because to you, Irini Sesena is just sounds. To me, when I say Irini Sesena, my heart opens like a flower because I say Irini. Irini means salam, means peace. So for me, the word Irini is emotional, and this is something you need to understand, people, that words have an emotional connection to humans. So for many of us, Asalamu Aleikum means nothing, or some words might mean something bad. And I will give you an example. So for example, the expression Allahu Akbar. The first time that I was exposed to this sound was while watching Muslim men shooting firearms and slitting throats. And of course here you will say, oh, the media promoted this. Yeah, the media promoted this, but someone did it. It was not fake. Nobody was playing theater. Some Muslims were screaming Allahu Akbar while they were shooting guns or slitting throats. When I was in my early 20s, in my city, we had some protest for the Palestinian cause. And I joined because I wanted to support the Palestinians. And then as we were marching through the city, at some point, the Arab-speaking males of the group started throwing stones on shops and houses. And they were screaming Allahu Akbar. And I got panicked. And I had my babies, I had my daughters with me. And I grabbed my daughters and I flee because I don't want trouble. I'm here to support the cause, not to destroy my city. These experiences left an emotional imprint. So for me, Allahu Akbar was something bad. And yes, later I translated it in my head and I knew that means God is the greatest, but it doesn't matter the translation. It's not cognitive. It is emotional. It took me months of having someone leading me in prayer in a safe environment, trusting this person that led my prayer, for me to rewire my brain and not feel terrified when I hear Allahu Akbar. So these are things you need to understand, that sometimes with the converts, we don't feel comfortable saying Salamu Aleikum or Alaikum Salam because it means nothing to us and there is no point of us doing it. And it's not obligatory. In my understanding, may God forgive me if I'm mistaken, you do your own research. Okay. And now that we finished with that, and I will talk more about the language, the linguistic element in another video because I try to keep this video short. So, how men use this to flirt online. So, hundreds of times, literally hundreds of times, I have unknown to me males that they add me in Facebook because my Facebook is not personal, it's professional. My Facebook is my platform to communicate my academic endeavors. I always accept people in the sense that people might be benefited by my knowledge. And then they send me a message. Asalamu Aleikum. I don't respond. Because if someone wants to, if someone needs an advice or something, they will say Assalamu Alaikum, they will introduce themselves and they will explain to me the reason of communication. If you just throw a line, I will not respond. And then they weaponize the popular practice of, oh, you have to return. And they come and they scold me. And they're like, oh, it's your duty as a Muslim to return the salam. Is it, Habibi? Is it? Is it my duty? When you come into my space, you don't know me, you didn't bump upon me on the street, I have no connection with you, I don't know you. Technically, I am haram to you. And you come. Because being on my Facebook, it's like if, you know, you're on my yard and you see me through the glass. You can see whatever I show you. But sending me a personal message is opening the door and entering my room. How? To begin with, you have done something that it's not appropriate. Because there is no reason. If there is a reason, if you want my support, if you want my advice, if you want to tell me, okay, I like your content, thank you for accepting me, respectable. But if you approach me and all the time, that these people start with Asalamu Aleikum, because at some point, I don't say Alaikum Salam. What I say is, how can I help you? I used to say, I don't say it anymore. And they will always say, oh, where are you from? Are you married? So at some point I stopped responding at all. But then they weaponize this, that, oh, as a good Muslim, you should return the salam. The salam from someone I know, the salam that is happening in a, in a good way. The salam that you throw so that I will have to respond to you against my will, so that you can ask me if I'm married or not, and you can start flirt, that is not appropriate. So stop abusing the popular practices of Islam to scold me for not being a good Muslim, simply because I don't want to play your game, okay? That being said, after all of this, what I said, if you feel comfortable giving salams and returning salams, alhamdulillah, do it. But if you see that someone does not return your salam, there is a reason. Can be emotional reason, can be that they know what you will say next and they don't want to engage in conversation with you at all. Can be many things. And also, don't play the pietistic, morally superior Muslim that knows Islam better when you know that you use Asalamu Aleikum to do your dirty job. That is all for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. One of the next videos will be about the importance of Arabic language for Muslims. It will be a bit of a sensitive topic, but yes, someone has to, doing this job is a dirty job, but someone has to do it. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video and you will watch the following ones. From me, for now,